If you're a real estate agent and you're tired of cold calling, door knocking, and spending money on ads, then subscribe to this podcast. We discuss leveraging the power of YouTube for your real estate business and how these strategies earned us over $1 million in GCI our first year in real estate. My name is Levi Lascsak and my partner is Travis Plumb. Let's get started. Here in New York City for Inman Connect, and of course we're joined here by the lovely crew of Consortia, Teresa and Sheila, and my good friend and business partner Travis Plumb. And today we're going to be diving in a little bit deeper on the certified listing process and how we were able to sell our latest listing just within 9 days. So Teresa, if you don't mind, can you kind of give us a little intro on that whole process, and then we can shift over to Travis and talk about how that went from the agent side.
And hello to everyone from New York. Thank you guys so much for filming. So good to see you guys here. So certified listing is a process that's been built over decades in San Francisco. Although we're the first to put this onto blockchain, there's nothing new about this process. In San Francisco, we sell our houses in 7 days. And we do all of our inspections, all of our disclosures, from the roof to the sewer lateral before we go live on the MLS. We put it all into a data room. And so when buyers come in and they look at the property, when they write the offer, they waive all of their contingencies automatically out the gate. So they just need to get the loan funded and they're ready to go. And that's what we've taken, and we've digitized the whole process, and then we put it on blockchain so that we have a ledger of every single disclosure that's gone into the property and into that data file.
Great. Anything to add to that, Sheila?
Yeah, I think for everybody watching, why does this matter? You know, why do we want to do this? And it comes down to, when you look at in the process, there are different times that your transaction can fall through, or there are different times that obstacles that you have to overcome to help you sell the home faster, right? Mm-hmm. And the first thing Teresa and I always talk about is title. You know, a lot of us wait to get the title report back until like a week before closing. Well, what happens if there's a lien or an encumbrance on that title? Your deal falls through, potentially. Yeah. So, do you have the right to sell the home? That's the first question. So we do the title work up front to make sure you know you have the right to sell the home and that you don't have any problems or glitches to get it closed. Number 2 is the appraisal, which is another reason why we've all lost our deals. And so we're doing not the actual appraisal up front, we're doing what we call a full appraisal grade package. That means everything the appraiser is going to need will get handed to him in this package. So that includes a digital floor plan, which is what you wound up doing on your listing, and it's an appraisal grade floor plan to the centimeter of exactly what the appraiser is going to need to price the home. And then they also include the data points required by the GSEs and any pictures that would be required to make sure the appraiser can take it and do a desktop appraisal or a hybrid appraisal and not have to physically go to the property. And that also, for us as agents, it's like, how do you know what to price the home at? Right. Because the truth is, we don't have a problem pricing the home, because it's like, what is the actual square footage? Is the tax roll right? What happens if they did a renovation or something to the property? But this gives you a true actual square footage to be able to price the property. And then the other piece that we're doing right now, we have a few more coming out, but the other piece we're doing is a virtual site inspection. And for me, similar to Teresa, I was doing a lot of this up front back in the day when I was running my team. And the reason why is I wanted the seller to know what someone was going to see when they came in, because sometimes your deal falls through at the home inspection phase, because the home inspector comes in and it's like, I've got a gazillion things wrong with your property, and then you wind up in a fight with the buyer after you're already under contract for the repairs. And this helps you as a selling agent to be able to say to the seller, listen, here's the list of things wrong. Maybe we can fix anything over $500 in value. We could even give them the inspection so they know what we fixed. And then hopefully that helps the process go smoother. So that's what we've instituted currently as a process for the certified listing program. And clearly we are blockchain. Consortia is the blockchain. We're the data storage center. These companies have come to us to say, will you allow my product to be available on blockchain to your agents in this process?
I want to add to that. In San Francisco, we don't have much new construction. Our houses are super old. We had a big earthquake in 1906, right? Like, these houses have been through a lot. They've been weathered. We're next to the ocean. And the question that I get about this certified listing product throughout the whole country, people are like, I don't want to disclose these things that are wrong with the house. Well, guess what? One,
You're going to have to eventually.
legally, I'm a broker. Sheila's a broker. I still practice and I do loans. You have to disclose these facts, right? It's very important. Number 2 is once you disclose, it's there.
Yeah.
You don't have to fix them. You say as is.
Right.
It's just a matter of going in, eyes wide open, and saying this is the condition of the property. And that's what's really important. In San Francisco, we have issues with our houses. There is no house in San Francisco that doesn't have wood boring beetle damage to like the tens of thousands. Does that stop a deal? No, we still sell those houses in 7 days. It's just there. Here you go. Okay, so you have $17,000 of wood boring beetle damage on the staircase. How long will that staircase still last? That staircase is still good for another 20 years. You're just saying it's there. Okay, if I want to be a good homeowner, I'm going to get it treated. So it's all disclosed, and we just move through the deal. So it doesn't become this sticky point of negotiation later, because a couple things are going to happen. You're going to have to negotiate the price down. No one wants to do that. You just say it's as is out the gate, and then you stick to that price and you put your feet in. It's the best thing for the seller, and it's good for the buyer because they get to see everything that's wrong with the house.
Yeah, I mean, I would much rather have all that information up front. Because it's just going to be so much easier to, manage the expectations with the seller and or the buyer. Like everyone knows, way up front what you're getting into instead of, having to get like 2 weeks into the deal or get 5 days or 7 days into the deal under an option period, and then you're battling back and forth, and you could potentially lose the deal because none of this stuff was disclosed up front. I mean, I think that's way better to do that actually.
Well, it's also better for both the agent, brokerage, and the seller because most lawsuits happen over the seller's disclosure. So what this does for you as an agent is it gives you a video and pictures and proof of what the actual condition of the property was, so that you and your seller are protected, so that what you're putting on that actual disclosure is true and accurate to the best of your ability, in hopes of protecting everybody in the future, because people do come back because a plumber comes and says, oh, well, this damage was done from 10 years ago. I can tell because blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then you wind up in a lawsuit. So I think it's good from that perspective, too, just covering all of us in the future.
Yeah.
And I don't think I purposefully omit details. I'm an investor. So when I look at a property, there's a roof, there are walls, and there's a door. Perfect. That's all I need. And so I, on my disclosures, will say, all conditions acceptable, because to me they're acceptable. Are they acceptable to you?
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe you're probably way pickier than I am, and you're like, well, there's a hole that wasn't filled from a
What are you
picture.
implying?
You're much more thorough. You're better at your job. I'm not a good broker. You're a much better agent, is what I'm saying. So I think that variability, that subjectiveness in those forms, we get rid of that, and I think it's just good for everybody. Brokers on the legal side, consumers the whole way around.
So what happens in San Francisco if you sell? I mean, you say homes sell for 7 days there, but what happens if the square footage comes back different than what's on the tax roll or something like that?
Funny you should ask that question. So I had this house. If you guys know the history of San Francisco, there's a very famous family. It's called the Barbagellotta family. They're big into real estate. So there was like a master mansion that my neighbors owned, and then we own the stable. There's like a house for the servants, and then there's a stable. We bought the stable, like the smallest property, great neighborhood in Seacliff. Okay, so the square footage on the MLS said 820 square feet. That's what it said. The appraisal,
For the mansion?
No,
Or
for
just
my
for the stable?
for my house,
Yeah.
for the stable that we lived
Right.
in, family of 4. Okay, beautiful house. All right, don't judge me. Small house. I'm not touching those jokes. Okay, so then the appraisal came back and it said that the lot was only it measured to be a 400. If you did the math, it could only be a 400 square foot house.
Yeah.
Or 400 down and 400 up, which comes to 800. And I went to the office, the selling office, and I was like, guys, I'm not super good at math, but if the lot only gives me up to a 400 square foot house, how did you put in the MLS it was 820 square feet? Like, the math just doesn't work. Like, that's over. So I think in these instances, we finally get the accurate measurement of the house, because the county record building in San Francisco has burned down not once but twice.
Yeah,
So when
it's
it
crazy.
burned down, they went to SFAR, our local association, and they said, give us all your records and we're going to use them over here. So you've got this ping pong match between these two different record sources over 100 years.
Yep.
So no one really, and they didn't have LiDAR technology on their phones to accurately measure. We don't know if they're going, in Canada, they call it paint to paint on the inside of the house. Were they going paint to paint, or were they going off the outside of the lot? We don't know what that original measurement was. And so now if we get these measurements up front in the transaction, as we get the listing, now there's no ambiguity. Well, what's the appraiser going to use later? what square footage is actually in the MLS or county records? How do we know if that's accurate or not? So we can go on this new measurement step because we know that's what the underwriter and that's what the lender's going to use.
Yeah, I see those discrepancies all the time. Maybe 100 square foot off, or 200 or 300 square feet off. From what's on the tax records versus what's on the MLS, and then you really have to dive into that because you have to know exactly what how you're going to list this property and at what price you're going to list that property. So I think that's a huge advantage to the consumer and the agent to get all that information up front for sure.
And in times like this, we are going like hardcore into the data. There's no bubblicious bidding process that's happening. Everybody's smashing that down because the lenders don't want to overcommit on a loan. Yeah. The buyers don't want to overextend themselves with rates this high. So every dollar on the price per square foot matters.
Yeah.
If we're selling $1,000 a square foot house times 100,
yeah.
right? Like that's some cheddar.
Yeah.
Even if they're only putting down 5, 10, 20%, that's money to our clients, and we just have to be very respectful of the money that they're bringing to the table.
Yep, no doubt about that.
Well, good. Well, let's dive into the recent listing that took place.
Yeah, I did the CPOP program, and I think it worked out really, really well.
And real quick, explain CPOP.
The certified property, certified pre-owned property, right? It's kind of like, I worked in the car business for a really long time, and people would always spend more money, and those cars would fly off the shelves so much faster if they had a 100,000-mile warranty. They were a certified pre-owned vehicle, and it's the same thing when you're looking at a house. You can just feel so much better about buying a house that's already had the pre-appraisal done and the pre-inspection done. And in this exact neighborhood, there's a ton of new construction that's actually going on. So there's a lot of competition, but houses that aren't new construction, that are pre-existing, they were sitting for anywhere from, I've seen from 67 days on the market right now to up to 139 days on the market. And we were able to sell our property in 9 days. So it's it's unheard of in this area. It's way out in the country. Like you would never really necessarily think that this property was going to sell. I certainly did not think this property was going to sell so quickly, but the description that we wrote up, that we put, so that it was a certified property on there, and what the certified property was, even the listing agent asked me, hey, what is this certified property all about? And I gave her all that information, and I'm sending all the paperwork, the document, the title work, the survey. I have the 180-page document that I got from title that I'm going to be forwarding over to the lender today, so that way they can get that to the appraisal and they have all the information up front, and we're able to close even quicker. They originally wanted to put what's today, they were putting, I think, February 25th. Right now, we should be able to close this on February the 7th because we just have so much. Yeah. So he said he can for sure get it done on the 10th, but we're really pushing for the 7th because my sellers, they're actually trying to buy a house in Vegas right now. So, it's trying to time it all, and get this done in 2 weeks. I don't think it would have been possible without doing a certified property. So it worked out really well. Everything was actually really smooth. I was out of town when we did the inspection, but I had one of my agents go to the house, and he said it was like 20 minutes, and he said it was like super cool. He called in on the app, he walked around the property, and next thing you know, it was all done. So inside of the platform, it's actually all in one place. You can read all the descriptions, and what's really cool is I thought it was going to be a lot more money, right? Because I'm charging, the way that I presented this opportunity to the sellers was I was like, hey, at 7%, I'm gonna cover all the costs up front to get this to a certified property, and and this is exactly what that covers. Well, that's an extremely profitable model, right? Because we're doing them a huge favor. We never thought that we'd be able to help them use all this money to buy their house. So to them, even though they had to pay 1% more, we're able to get this house sold, get it closed, get everything done up front instead of having to stay on the market for 60, 75 days. And so even though they paid an extra percent, I was able to work that in as the selling agent, which works out really well for me, and it worked out really well for them because we're able to, close that deal so much faster. But the whole process was easy. You just go inside of the consortium platform, order the certified listing, and you just, it's super easy. You just put the address, the client's name, all their information, you make a couple checks, and then you calculate the total, and then you check it out. And so that's a really profitable model there because I'm able to get 1% and help them sell their property a lot faster. So the whole thing was just easy, smooth, and we sold it in 9 days. So it was good.
That is amazing.
And the buyer has a loan?
He does. Yep.
So they have a loan. What type of loan? Conventional?
It was a conventional loan.
Conventional,
Yep.
but still to be able to
20%
close
down.
that in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. It's like it's
We
crazy.
thought our mortgage
21
officer was
days,
awesome
yeah.
in 3 weeks, and now we're getting that down to 2. Do you know which company they went through?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
Now you're getting into too many questions. Levi. Chill out,
That's
bro.
the point. That's actually the
Well, I was
point.
just wondering, just in case it was like a big bank or somebody that typically
No, it's a
takes
big
lot.
bank.
Oh,
It's
it is a big bank.
yeah.
So if that's usually a drawn out
Exactly.
process,
Yep.
and you can have problems.
Well,
so.
they wanted 30 days originally.
Yeah.
You know, and after I talked to him this morning, let him know everything, he was like, yeah, I should be able to get this done by the 10th. And I said, hey, if you can get it done by the 7th, that'd be even better. So that way they can close. So we'll see if there's that 3-day gap. But either way, I mean, they were looking at another 2 weeks on top of that, basically, you know, or not doing the deal and having to wait 60 days or something like that. So,
Exactly.
you know, we never thought we'd even have a chance to get this money up front. And this is huge for them because now they're going to get a much lesser mortgage payment instead of just having the capital and all that on the back end. So should be a pretty smooth and easy process, but we just got to execute it today. So we'll see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
2 things that I want to talk about. One, I want Teresa to talk about one. You hit it as far as it doesn't matter if it's a big bank to help close quicker. Because when you're doing that pre-appraisal package, because the deal is tied to the lender and the appraisal, right? So when you're doing the pre-appraisal package, that package is sitting there. So as soon as you get a contract, you can roll all that data over to the lender, and the appraiser doesn't need to do anything. They literally just do the appraisal. So you can get the actual full appraisal back within about 2 days. Did it take about a day or 2 to get it
We
back?
just got to execute it. Oh, yes. On the original, I
Yeah.
think it was less than that. It was a day.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was a day. It was
Yeah.
like the very next day I had 180-page docs and for the title work and all that stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
for the title,
Yeah.
but then the appraisal, when
yeah.
you give that, because you as the listing agent are going to give that package to the lender, because the whole goal is the lender's going to order the appraisal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, instead of them having to wait 3 weeks for somebody to get out there, they're able to do a desktop appraisal within 24 hours, 48 hours, so you have your number back. So that does 2 things for you as a listing agent. Number 1, it helps you close quicker.
Yeah.
Yay. Or number 2, if for some reason it doesn't appraise and you lose the deal, you can put the property back on the market really fast.
Yep.
So you've lost days versus weeks.
Yep.
And normally as a listing agent, if you've lost weeks and it doesn't appraise, you're losing the deal and the seller.
Yep.
So this really
Yep.
makes you look like a hero to your client, that you're doing all of this up front, and you're showing them you're the professional. You're going to make sure you take care of them in the fastest, most efficient way to help their deal go smooth. And then the second thing I want to talk about is on the mortgage side. I want you to explain as the mortgage company, because she's a mortgage broker.
Allow me to take a quick break to remind you that we have very important links in the description below. If you want the full story of how we closed over $1 million in commissions our first year and over $2.3 million in commissions our second year, check out the first link. Also, you have the link to our #1 Amazon best-selling book, Passive Prospecting. Last, if you enjoy this podcast and you're a giving person, leave a 5-star review, please. Now back to the episode.
Why this is so much faster for you and how that cuts the time and how they were able to get this deal closed quicker from the mortgage side.
Yeah, thank you, Sheila, for bringing that up. It's been like I've been waiting for my turn to say that. So mortgages right now cost $11,000 to originate. $11,000 on average, and the lender is losing $600 on average per file. So every day that's an annoyance to us as practitioners, it's annoying to our clients, it actually costs like hard money to the lender because they have to touch the file again, they're waiting, it's still in production. So who pays for that 11 grand? The consumer does. And what we're trying to do is make housing more accessible, more affordable for the consumer. So if we can bring those days on the market, bring the escrow down, the days, then the consumer at the end of the day is saving money. Because every loan that I did last year, between the time that we locked and we went to closing, rates went up.
Yeah.
The lenders, every single lender was like, we don't want to send the wire.
100%.
And I'm like, okay, so it's not, okay, from
No,
my
for
side,
sure.
I'm arm wrestling, and they'll make up stuff in compliance. Love you lenders, it's cool, but like it's been really hard to do deals last year, and they don't want to send the wire because it takes them 16 months to make up that money, that $600 loss on every file. If they're going to service the loan themselves, that takes 16 months to get to profit, right, at par, break even. Or they're selling it on the capital markets and they're losing. They're losing on every single file, and that's why you're going to see a lot of consolidation in the lending space. Those mortgage companies are going to consolidate. They just can't sustain what we're in right now. So every single lender that we talk to, every single bank, big bank, little bank, they're like, yes, we want the agents to do this process because then they're able to fulfill faster and that saves them money. Everyone wins on this one, everyone at the table, the money side, the agents, and the consumer.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because like when I've presented this on the last 3 listing appointments that I've had, and no one's doing it right now. So from an agent standpoint, you know, it's obviously good for everybody involved, but from an agent standpoint, I mean, you truly get to go in there and offer, you know, that seller something that no one else is able to do. It's a huge leg up, and as long as you can, you know, explain this thoroughly to the seller, I mean, you really are truly doing them a service to be, I mean, like the sellers have no clue all the nightmares that we deal with on the back end. So bringing all that up to the front, letting them know that, hey, you could run into a bad appraisal, you could run into a bad inspection, fighting with the buyers, delayed closings. Like there's so many things that happen on the back end to keep these deals together. Explaining this to the seller up front, and then also explaining this to the buyer's agent and the buyer on the importance of what this process truly does for them. It's just going to help everybody in the entire process. I really love it. I mean, it's such a game changer for what we've been doing so far. So obviously we're making a big push for more listings this year, thanks to y'all. So, you know, we're 3 for 3 right now on this, selling it faster. The other house that we sold in Plano, that was sold in 3 days. I mean, it's like, wow. You know, this stuff, I mean, all the marketing, all the different pieces of the puzzle, you know, it's really working out well, even in a crazy market right now where things are sitting 60 days, 75 days, you know, depending on the area. So,
and for those that missed it, you were able to get 7%
That's
on
right.
the listing.
Oh, I don't think they missed that.
I
definitely heard that one.
They're
Ding,
like,
ding,
wait,
ding.
you got 7% in this market and selling.
Can we talk about the cost of what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're doing the certified print, it's $290, right? So on this,
depending on the state you're in.
Right. Correct.
Because the title, if you're watching this and you're not in Texas, we're in Texas,
Got it.
and so in Texas it costs that, but the title piece is based on the state you're located in.
Okay.
The other pieces are set, but the title is the one that does change.
So for us in Texas, it's $290 for the whole shebang, right? I mean, this is a $500,000 house basically. So me getting that extra point, I was able to basically get $5,000 and have to spend the $290 up front, you know. So like that's nice, you know what I mean? It makes them more money, they sell faster, and we get to make more money and provide a significantly better service for the seller. So yeah, I mean, I think that's I thought it would be way more expensive to be able to do that. So like, you know, if you're an agent who's tight on money, who doesn't have a lot of deals, that's a very affordable piece to cover up front, you know, where you can make it up more so on the back end. I think that's really important to know, because a lot of our agents were like, well, what's the cost, right? They were concerned with what that was, and originally I was like, you know, maybe $2,000 or $3,000, and like, well, how am I going to cover $3,000 up front, you know? And it's not, it's $290, and they're like, oh my God, I'll do that all day long, you know? So I thought it was, you know, very, very affordable for sure.
And the other thing with that, depending on what state you're in and what brokerage you're with, you have the ability also on your listing agreement to do a marketing fee. So you're allowed to do that on your listing agreement. Again, check with your brokerage, check with your state. But if you weren't gonna, because some markets can't charge 7. You know, some markets are charging less than 6 just because of the competitive nature of the state or the market. So just consider that you could charge a marketing fee as well to be able to recoup those fees. But the truth is, if you think of it from time and money, right? Time is money. And you burn through these listings where traditionally all of us that have carried big books of business, I mean, you're sitting on $8 million, $10 million, $20 million worth of listings that are sitting. And then you're having to call them every week and update them. And it just, this is more effective for you as an agent from a time and money perspective. Definitely. Because you're in and out. We have our main goal. When I met Teresa and we started doing this a year ago, I said my main goal is to get rid of everything that causes you to lose a deal in the process. Yeah. That's what we're solving for.
That's it. Yeah.
So the other pieces that are coming are the other pieces that can cause the deal to fall through. So we really want to offer the process to all of you agents that you don't have to worry. It's like one and done. I know that it is appraised. I know that the condition's in good shape. I know that I don't have encumbrances on the title. We're working with a company that's actually going to do the repairs for you up front. Because one of the things that happens when you go into a lot of listings, especially if you're working with anybody elderly, is they're sitting on a bunch of equity, but they can't fix the property. And so they can't move, they're stuck.
Exactly.
And so if we're bringing someone to the table that not only gives you the exact cost of what it would take to fix every single thing in this process, but they're able to come do all the repairs for you. Because what I say to Teresa is, we're not contractors. You know, we don't want that liability. We don't want to, we don't want to, that's not our job. So we're trying to help bring the companies and the processes to you that let you focus on what you should be focused on, which is getting more listings and taking more buyers out, and let us help bring the companies to the table that can help you be more effective in that process. That makes you look better, and that makes, actually it's better for the industry.
Yes.
I just think ultimately it's better for the industry and absolutely better for the consumer.
Well, that was my biggest concern about, making a really hard push for these listings, because, with our YouTube channel, I mean, our situation, I would say, is a lot different than most.
It is.
Our buyers, I mean, our average conversion is like 45 days, so like from the time they reach out to the time we're under contract, it's about 45 days.
51.
Yeah, okay, well now, maybe so. It's slowed down a little.
But because of the last half of last year.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But we're not, at the end of the day though, like on the sell side, you're with that person all the time.
Exactly.
Ours is like different because they're out of state, and they're like, it may be 30 days before they even come into town. I've been talking to people who are coming in town in March, so that's going to naturally make those. But I just have to make a quick call every couple weeks and touch base with them. Whereas like on the sell side, you're constantly having to get out there. You know what I mean? You have to change your sign. You have to have open houses there's so much more involved. And when looking at the whole process, like, man, do I have to do this for 90 days? Like, have all these open houses, make sure the house is staying clean, schedule all the shows. So to me, it was like, I was like, man, this is just going to be a lot more work to get all of these listings. Now it seems, with the process that we have put in place and the help of being certified, they're moving much, much, much quicker. So it makes me feel a lot better. And obviously we were really buyer heavy. Now I'm learning a lot more of the processes, not having to drive out there because I forgot to put, the little sign on the bottom that says open house coming this weekend. I'm like, dang, I got to drive 2 hours for this. Dang it. So, but figuring out all those different processes is just, it makes me feel a lot more comfortable moving into the listing, because I wouldn't want to have $20-something million worth of property that's been sitting for 60, 90 days. And that's just, it's a little bit concerning there, but now I feel much better, about moving forward and getting these things sold faster.
Well, and you're already out-pocketing money as a listing agent, and you're finding this. You guys were doing it on the buyer side because you're so heavy on YouTube and you do so much advertising and, SEO. But on the listing side, you're already paying for a lot of things. Besides just the certified listing.
Oh, 100%.
And so you're sitting on all of that money anyway. And it's like, now you don't have to worry about losing that money and having to walk away from the listing or having a listing fall through.
That's a good point.
Because you didn't have your stuff in a row, so to speak, and making sure that the property is even going to be able to sell. And that's what it comes down to. Can we even sell this thing? And that's why I'm excited about the new product coming, just because I want to be able to say to you, whatever's wrong with your property, we're going to be able to have it fixed up front, and it doesn't come out until the closing. So your seller's not having to out-pocket that money.
I can't wait for that product.
That's huge.
Is that the company that we looked at at the NAR event?
I think that's one of the companies. We have a few companies that are able to do that.
Yeah, I was super excited about that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's going to be a game changer.
It is a game changer.
Yeah, because then you can take that listing, you can just put all that up front. I mean, I don't know. It's just so cool to be able to get everything done up front like that.
Well, I think too, for the buyer side, because you guys are so heavy on the buyer side, how great is it for a buyer to come to a property, and when we get to the point that we're even fixing it, that actually changes the loan structure for the buyer, because your loan is determined on the condition of the property, meaning that if this property is in better condition and I don't have to fix anything, I can change my loan type and get a better structure on my deal. So it literally just goes all the way down the line, better for everybody in the process.
Especially for, I feel like, for veterans, because there's that's like going to be such a game changer for the veterans, because we've my buddy Vince, who's on our team, he was working with a veteran for months because his budget was really low, it was under $300,000, and every single property they looked at so many, they need no one on the sell side. Well, the seller would have the money if they close, but they didn't have the money up front to make the fixes, and the buyer certainly didn't have any money. He was trying to do it zero down, and he was a veteran, and we couldn't help this guy for several months until we find the right property. With something like that, you can just get that stuff fixed up front. Now veterans can buy these properties so much easier.
It's the quality of life,
It
the
is
quality of
quality.
families.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And since we're talking about cost, for those friends who are out there who are brokers or maybe you're in MLS, this is all turnkey, and we offer it for free, white label, to anyone who's a large broker or MLS to roll this out. It costs you nothing because you only pay for the service when you get the listing.
Yep.
So we made sure that the economics of this whole service work right out the gate for anyone who's coming to the table.
Wow.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's really good. So where do we go from here?
Well, I'm excited about the buyer side that we're going to roll out. So you were
What you
just
got on the buyer side? I haven't heard about this.
well, so you were just talking about that. So the companies that we're working with are going to be able to roll this out on the buyer side, meaning that we can work with that seller, even if you're not the listing agent, to be able to offer products so that the buyer's protected and can get in the home that they may not have been able to get in.
Yeah.
But we'll be rolling that out sometime this year.
That's cool. So you don't have to be on the listing side. You can be on the buyer side and be like,
No.
hey, I have this company who will do all these fixes, and then they'll take care of
Exactly.
the payment of a closing.
So we're going to roll
Yeah,
out
that's
a
that.
certified buyer.
That's that. Oh, let's go. All right, you know we're ready for that.
I know
You know we're ready for
I know
that.
you are.
We're going to have to put a little bit of 4% on the front end of it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm not touching that one.
I do want to say we are working on some things with to
Actually,
mitigate.
I'm sorry. Now that you said that, though, it makes me think. I mean, because the 3% is typically paid
Yes.
on the outside, so there might be a 1% you could add into
You're absolutely right.
from on the buyer side
Yeah.
and say, look, if you really want us to help you out on this, this is what it's going to require. Because if they don't have to come out, I don't know, it could be something to explore.
I'm exploring
Well,
it now.
it's actually
Deep
something
in
that's going
exploration.
to, everybody needs to be aware that that is a very real possibility coming in
Oh,
the
for sure.
not too distant future, because other countries don't have buyer representation. Other countries only have seller representation, and then the buyer has to decide to pay the agent.
Yep.
So this is something very real that looks like it's coming down the pike.
100%.
So we are working to solve for that. So
Yeah.
if you're in a situation when that buyer agency goes away, we want to make sure you as a professional have you have the products basically where the buyer will feel comfortable paying you, like you're worth it to them.
Yeah, 100%.
So
So you're saying that potentially the buyer agency is going to go away in the United States?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
That
I just
that-
want people who are watching to hear that, which is why we made such a big shift to the listing side.
Yeah, I think most people that have been in the business for a while knew that there was a lawsuit at one
Yep.
point against the industry regarding this exact topic, because the people filing the lawsuit said it was not legal or appropriate for the seller to pay for the buyer representation. That suit was settled, but then another suit came out. So this is something that's been ongoing for a number of years. But if you look at Europe, or a lot of other countries actually have no buyer representation. And as the market, squeezes, and as things happen in this market coming out that's starting to roll out now for everyone, I think more people are going to be thinking about that. More people are going to be thinking, I don't want to have to pay those extra fees. So as agents, how do we shift?
Yeah.
We always have to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons why we're working on the certified buyer, because if you have a buyer, you have to prove your worth to them. Because a lot of buyers today will look on a website and say, this is the house I want. And then they say to you, well, can you split your commission? Because what did you do for me? Well, we have to prove our value. How valuable are you?
Yep.
As Teresa always says.
Why are you here?
How are you offering value,
Yeah,
right?
for
So
sure.
we want to make sure we're always leveling up to be the best professionals
Yeah, I love
that we
that.
can be.
Yeah. Brand and building a good brand and having a lot of value is going to be the key to the future of selling real estate. That's for sure.
I want to talk about something else that's come out recently. Can we talk about this?
Did you want to add something?
I want to know where she's going.
Okay.
You know where
well,
I'm
I
going.
kind of cut you off there. I just want
Was
to
there
make sure.
something you're going to add to what
No,
he
I
was
want to hear
saying?
what you're. No,
Okay,
I always
alright.
want to hear what you're going to
Back
say.
to you, Sheila.
Yeah.
So something's rolled out in the news in the last month, and it rolled out initially in California that a law was passed that the state is pushing for a one tenant login, so that the tenant doesn't have to keep paying. So if you're taking a client out that's looking for a rental, typically it's in Texas anyway, it's $40 per person over 18 for an application. The average American has $400 in their bank account. So if you have a family trying to find a place to live and they're having to spend $40 per person.
Yeah.
So typically it's going to be at least $80, if not $120 per family per application. They could file 5-10 applications to try to just get a place to live. And this housing affordability is a really big topic right now in White House.
Yep.
And Biden just passed something last week saying he's really going to push for this. And so Consortia has already created the product. And we are going to be rolling this out through our lobbyist in Washington to the White House. And it's basically going to be a place where tenants can do their application once, and through the blockchain we'll have the ability to send that application out, so that way they're not having to spend all that extra money.
Yeah.
And this is
cool.
something for you guys to consider, truthfully, because I know you're working currently with a lot of buyers and now starting with a lot of listings, but there's a lot of people out there watching that do work with a lot of people looking for rentals. And rentals are going to be bigger in the future, just so you know. So I think statistically we were researching this, that for the first time in 40 years, more apartment buildings are being built than in any other time in history. And the reason why is a lot of developers are moving away from building condos and building apartments because they can flip them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so they're making more money instead of just selling the condo once.
Yep.
So this is the future, truthfully. Rentals are a huge future that I want you guys and everyone watching to think about, because we have to figure out, how do we deal with this? How do we help people, help humans get into homes, whether it's a rental or a sale? And it's something coming down the pike, if you want to follow up on that.
I think this is maybe one of the coolest things that Consortia will do, is to combat homelessness through this product. And it was, I think, unintentional. I think way back in the day, NAR understood the magnitude of blockchain, and this project specifically. The token that we have for the data files that we use in selling the house, we can use for humans and for their files. The only difference is one has a foundation and one has legs, right?
Yeah.
So we're able to create this data file that follows this human around, and this is awesome. This is huge, because these people have $400 in savings. If they can't get into a new place, they're homeless.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
I have
Yeah.
goosebumps, and I'm going to cry thinking about just the impact that this has on humans. So just really grateful that our technology can be leveraged by bigger minds.
Yeah.
People are like, another sister NAR company was like, 9 months ago, they were trying to tell me what this was. And I was like, does not compute. And then when I turned on NPR on the radio, like in my head, I was like, turn on NPR right now. This is the weirdest thing. And then I was like, wait, a new law? And that's data, and it's on a file, and that's blockchain. It was just so easy,
Boom.
and
Yeah.
boom. And then our lobbyist from NAR, he was like, right into the Biden administration this goes. So super grateful. Right place, right time. I mean, it's only been 10 years that I've been at blockchain. 10 grueling years. 10 years.
Jeez, what took you so long?
I know.
Fast success.
Overnight
Overnight.
success.
Overnight success.
Yeah, but like to do something good for consumers.
Yeah.
Either our clients today or clients in the future. Just, this is a good one.
I mean, the blockchain as a whole is just making things so much more streamlined and better, and for everybody involved. I mean, you can just track everything so much better, which is good.
Well, we even think from privacy perspective.
Yeah.
You know, we all email stuff. How
Yeah.
secure is email?
Oh,
Hello.
No.
You know,
not.
and
I
or-
just went through identity theft, so.
Oh
yeah.
no.
But
Really?
yeah, we got it cleared. I'm getting it cleared out. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a really big credit card on him. Thanks.
Well, I found out because we opened a new account and I got denied for a credit card, and I was like, wait a second, hold
yeah.
on. Never
You're like,
been-
since
yeah,
never
yeah,
did I get
since
denied?
never have I been
He's like a
denied.
950
Yeah.
beacon.
And that was it. Yeah, a couple of overcharged Verizon bills, $2,000, utility bills for a couple $100, but they've already been working. Luckily, I actually have ID insurance, and
Yeah.
so they've already put things into place, and it hasn't even been 30 to 40 days, and
Wow.
things
That's
are already
awesome.
they're getting it taken off. So pretty good.
So there was a piece of land that was misrepresented, and then I represented the buyer, and it was completely fraud. And it got reported. Of course, there was title insurance, and because of that loss, we are building a better product. So on Consortia, this is pretty crazy. Never in the history of real estate is that consumer ID for ownership checked. Think about that. And I recognize this right away coming out of Wall Street into real estate. I'm like, wait, it's called KYC. There's no know your customer process. None, right?
Yeah.
And so the notary shows up and says, can I see your ID? And they just write it down. They don't check it. They're not running it against like
That's
a fraud
crazy,
data.
yeah,
It's
100%.
crazy. the world's largest asset class. And we never check to see, like, I own this property. So this is rolling out as the core, the first step in our process when you join. Well, you can join consortium and get an account, right? But then if you want to tie yourself to a property, you have to tell us you are who you are.
Yeah.
And we run that check.
Yeah.
This has never existed before. We're pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and to put that into the transaction.
Yeah, I mean, we've had people try to buy $9 million properties from us, and they were complete frauds.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't know that, you know, going into it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to get weeks into the process or months trying to show these people. It's such a joke. But, you know, anyways, don't get me started on that.
But that's something that's something layering in this year. So we're trying to get every technology possible. Like I want to scan the human. So we actually, our technology is going to scan the hand. It's going to scan their face, and it's going to match them up against the FBI database. Wow. So it's as high a level as you can possibly get as a normal.
That's cool with me.
Without being in the government.
So if you did anything in the 70s, don't buy a house now.
That's a private conversation.
Exactly.
We can talk about that.
I mean, truthfully, think about what happened to Teresa, because that person stole the person's name.
Yeah.
Made an ID, an actual ID with their face and that person's name to be able to put a contract through on this property. So there are ways based on the back of your ID and things that we can hopefully prevent as much as possible ID theft.
Well, what is it? I've heard a lot lately about, I don't know if it's almost like housing identity theft, where after people buy the house, and thieves are now getting into public record or whatnot, and they're able to pull out home equity loans or things, or even sell the house. Will blockchain help get rid of that?
Working on that. So actually later today, we have a very big call with a county, one of the largest counties in the country, to be able to put their records on blockchain. And that's like the most obvious thing to do with blockchain, is to put title records. It's one county at a time. So we never envisioned that this soon in the company, right? Even though I've been at it a decade, we never envisioned that this soon counties would be finding us. So the governor's office in Florida, Governor DeSantis, came to us and was like, we need solutions for these problems on the title side, and then also with the human token, talking about that with medical records and driving records. So it's very cool. Some of the most progressive leaders are taking this responsibility of data protection and the consumer protection very seriously. And I think because consortia is private, we're a private permissions-based blockchain. There's a lot of noise in the crypto markets. Everything's falling apart right now. Everything that we do is built away from crypto. We are the anti-crypto. We've hated crypto since the very beginning. I could have made a ton of money launching some kind of coin years ago, and as a family, we said no. We said we're not going to go that route. And as a benefit, like, the government sees us as legitimate because we're not tied to any of these. Maybe it's a security, maybe it's not, maybe there was fraud, maybe $1 billion was lost. Like, we don't have any of that reputational risk. So we are all about making sure that consumer data is taken care of properly. It's going to, for the house records, come down to the counties, and there are 3,600 counties in the United States. So that's going to be a very long sales process to get all of them along. I mean, but what if a law comes out at a national level, like we're seeing what we're doing? What if, right?
Yeah.
We'll be right there. I'm sure there will be other companies, hopefully not, but like, it would be great we could at least lead that conversation county by county, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Interesting. Alex, what are we doing? How are we doing on time?
We're at 40 minutes right now.
40 minutes? Okay. Well, is there anything that we want to cap this conversation off with, or anything else in the news recently that we should cover on this topic? Or are we not at liberty to disclose yet?
There's a
I love
lot.
how I talked about
sometimes I don't
title
know what we're
fraud.
talking
Teresa's
about,
like, "What happened today? Today we happen to be solving that problem. We're working on solving that problem."
Well, truthfully, there is a lot of news coming out, what she was just referring to regarding the crypto market. And I think this is so important for people working with us, and why I actually wanted to work with Teresa.
Yep.
Because she's a registered licensed investment banker, SEC investment banker. She makes sure she follows the laws. That was really, really important to me when I got into this space. And you see now in the news every day, another crypto company. The government the Treasury just went after Binance this past week. And Binance is the largest exchange in the world. And they went after them because they can see black money moving from Russia through their exchange. And so they're going to shut them down. Genesis just got shut down.
Wow.
So you see company after company in the actual crypto market being shut down. And so if we were building our blockchain on any crypto,
Right.
and we actually had spoken to some of the biggest crypto companies that build blockchain in the beginning when we were deciding to move to version 5, and we made a conscious choice to build a blockchain not tied in any way, shape, or form, anything having to do with crypto, whether it was the blockchain part of the company or the token part of the company, so that way we could work with the government and we could work with the Veterans Association and all the GSEs and all the other people we're working with. And I think that's important because as this industry gets crushed by the government, to roll out their new payment rail, which is the FedNow, and their new digital currency, which should roll out this year as well. The FedNow will come out first, like May to June, the payment rail, and then the coin will follow. And I think it's interesting. I would love Teresa to talk about it from an investment banking perspective, really why this conversation is so important now, this year, because literally history is going to change this year based on digital assets. So if you'll tell the story about China and all that stuff.
For sure. So this is the biggest change to our currency in 40 years. 40 years. We haven't seen anything this big since we went off of the gold standard. So why this is important is, look, the war in Ukraine is a tragedy. Like, it's upsetting so many people's lives. It is a smokescreen for what's happening in the China basin. And you can read the news, right? But let's say what it is. China released their digital yuan last year, I think it was. Russia's launching their digital currency. There's talks about both of them launching on gold standard, which gold, we're not on gold, right? So here's what's going to happen. The U.S. has to release its digital dollar. There are articles floating out there. This isn't like conspiracy stuff. This isn't me like 2 a.m. reading stuff on my laptop like in a rabbit hole years ago, like 10 years ago. This is like real. This is in the news now. So you have this digital dollar that has to come out, and it has to compete with China for currency supremacy. How is the world going to trade? So here's the thing. China has $32 billion. I'm sorry, 32. What's a T between friends?
Just a few zeros.
It's a rounding error. It's a rounding error.
It's accounting error.
Yeah,
clerical.
Our government does it all. It's just rounding.
No comment.
So $32 trillion of our debt is what they hold. So China has to do one of two things: accept our digital dollar, and then we're tethered, right? Because now they've bought $32 trillion.
Wait, what's our debt at right now? Is it right at 32 or 34?
I think it's like over 40, right?
I don't know that stat. I know that China holds 32 trillion, right? And that's what our
So they
spending
hold a
budget.
majority.
Yeah.
They hold a mass majority of it then.
They
It's
do.
over 40 or something like that.
Are we at 40 now?
I think so,
Yeah.
but I don't quote me
But
on
China
that.
is the majority holder of
Feels
our
like yesterday when 20 was
I know.
like
I know.
20
Yeah, this is
trillion
what-
was
never
was
mind.
a problem, you know? Okay.
So they have to
That's
they have to convert their dollars, which is held in, over to the new digital dollar, or walk away from it. Either way, we win. Either way, as a country, we win. Game over.
That's
right?
cool. Yeah, that's
Anchor
great.
our currency or walk away from our debt. It's brilliant, right? So we've also just hit our debt ceiling, right? Again, as a government. We know that rates are supposed to come down in the summer, exactly when the new Fed payment is about to roll out. We also know that they're rushing, and we know that articles are coming out in the news. So
Good news.
yeah, there's a lot ahead of us, I think, this year. I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens. We talk
Wow,
about this
this is so
probably,
crazy.
isn't it? I mean, when you really just take a moment and think about
Yeah,
everything
it's-
that's going to change this year.
Wow.
I think.
But we're not wanting to scare anybody.
Nope.
So,
Yeah, but-
so number one.
Well, it's
this
the
is-
whole purpose of having these discussions
Exactly.
and this information is because we're trying to inform
mind blowing.
the aging
Exactly.
community right now that you do not want to be
Right.
last to
But
learn
this
about
isn't going to
this.
be like a light switch.
Yeah.
Now, when she's saying that
Or
the
like a
digital,
dimmer switch.
kind of like a dimmer switch. Exactly, it's a dimmer switch. So they're going to do the digital dollar to get China moved over, right? Take our debt. That tethers us. Also, they're working with the central banks globally. They've already done a pilot. They did that in October for this new dollar. So we know they're moving it quickly, so to speak. So once the FedNow comes out and the payment rail, which means like ACH, SWIFT, PayPal, Venmo, all of them, the way the money moves is going to flip to the FedNow first. And then the dollar comes out on top of it. And so then they'll tie in the central banks, and all of the other countries that are tied to the dollar will be flipped onto the digital dollar. And so for us, don't freak out thinking, oh, I got money under my blanket or under my pillow or whatever. What am I going to do? The banks are already all working on this. The biggest banks in the country are already doing this with the government. And so they're going to wind up converting your money. And the other thing this is going to do is anti-money laundering. And that's why China did it. So when China went to their currency, they wiped out all of the dirty money out of their system. Because either you cash in your dollars, you cash in your money and accept our new digital dollar, or else that money is no good. So it is going to help from that perspective, bring everybody onto the new system.
Europe did it too.
Yeah,
Remember,
Europe did it
Italy
with the
had its
euro.
currency. France had its currency. Now we just have the euro. So it's happened before. And I think you look back, my favorite example is seashells, right? We're not using seashells anymore. Somebody came out with these cute little coins with a photo of Caesar on it, right?
Yeah.
The imprint. So this happens over and over again through the history
it
of
does.
humankind, and it's nothing new. So we're just all getting ready for it, and we're planning business accordingly. I think where the rubber hits the road for us as practitioners is FedNow enables 24/7, 365 clearing and payments. So when you get that, plus the counties on board, like we were just discussing, now you're getting people into houses. Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. Like this starts to happen like a machine. You think about like that large mortgage company that says that just wants one click. You've seen that Super Bowl ad, you know which company, one click, buy a house.
Yeah.
That's what we're going toward. So that's to tie it together. That's what's so important about certified listing. You need all the homework done about the house up front, because you have all these systems behind you ready to close. You've got the banks ready to close. You've got the counties ready to close. How quickly can you get a meeting of the minds to say, I like this house, I want to buy it?
Yeah.
Right? That's what's key. And that's where, if you're a good agent, if you're watching this podcast and this video, this is your job going forward, which is really cool.
It is.
How will the consumer compete with the investments or the large companies if it's a one click? Because if they have somebody, institutional investor out there that is buying up multiple properties that could just sit there online and one click and buy things up, how does the consumer
I mean, that's
compete with
happening
that?
already, honestly.
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
and we thought like when the iBuyers were 4%, they'd never get any higher than 10%, and then they eclipsed, they blew right through that, right? And when you tell the story about Travis selling this house like in 9 days on the market, or 3 days like last time, right? Now you've got financed buyers that are as competitive as all
Exactly.
cash, and that's what drives us. That's our
Yes.
passion. We're here for the consumer who needs to get a loan.
And we feel like it'll be better because the investment bankers are not going to be, on Wall Street or whoever you want to call, are not going to have the same deals.
Right.
So if we're bringing the property up to speed or market value, they're not necessarily willing to pay market
100%,
value.
yeah,
They
100%.
want a 30% discount. So, but there are going to be investment people that are buying them up. But what we're seeing right now, everybody's been hearing foreclosure, but no one's really seeing them.
Yeah.
Right.
The reason you're not seeing them is they're being bought behind the scenes. What's happening right now are those big groups are going to the banks saying, what do you have on your books? I'll pay you 30 cents on the dollar to take it all off your books right now. So they're buying that debt behind the scene right now. So we're not seeing it in the public eye the way we saw back in 08.
Yeah, they're just
But
swooping it all up in the
they're,
back end.
They're doing it
Yeah.
on the back end.
Oh, yeah.
So the reality is people with money are going to buy.
Yeah,
There's
for
just,
sure.
it is what it is. So we're leveling us as an industry, as practitioners, up to the point of, if I can bring the property to a condition that they don't have to discount to sell, or you can get a better loan product because it's in a great condition and I have everything done up front, then I'm more competitive with an investment company. And they're probably not going to go after that property.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
Fannie and Freddie are also rolling out a policy that says the inventory has to be show pony quality.
Yeah.
It's a word in our company, show pony. to go and sell, which is pretty cool if it's a distressed asset. So the government is behind the consumer on that one, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how the numbers work out on that, but
Yeah.
because some of those properties need a lot of work, but that is what the government is behind. So that's very cool.
And that's good for the consumer. It's good for the country, because if you look at what happened with the distressed assets the last time, and so real estate, as she mentioned, is the number one asset class in the world. American real estate is one above everybody. So I don't know if you guys were in the business, I don't think you were when the last crash happened. It destroyed not just the real estate class, it destroyed the economy. So this is really important to protect the economy of America, not just real estate, by helping everybody come together and say, there's no reason why these distressed assets shouldn't be fixed and be in a condition that a normal human can go get a loan and buy this property. Because normal humans, if they only have $400 in their bank account, can't buy distressed properties because they don't have the money to fix them up.
Yep.
Well, this is a process we can help them, and we're working with a company that looks like they're going to get that contract. So that will be another product that we'll be able to offer to everybody once that comes through, where we're working with the government and with the company that's actually doing the repairs to release those to market. So.
Wow. Well, in closing, you've got some exciting updates, right, on the consortia website?
We do. Version 5 rolls out in just a matter of days. We're so excited. It is a really, it's sexy. It's slick. It's
It is.
Look,
I love it.
version
Now, when
1
you say
through 4
mean days, like within the next week, 2 weeks, or next
yes,
week or
yes,
so?
Yes,
Okay.
It was supposed to roll out last Monday, but we made a last-minute change to make a dynamic NFT so that things, as the property changes, as the human, the practitioner changes, that we can adapt for that. So we're very excited about the changes that are coming out.
So reconsortia.com. And what's real quickly, just describe the process so somebody can do exactly what Travis has done to just go on there. Where would they look? Where do they click? And how do they get started in this process?
Thank you. You're so kind to do that logistical plug. So it's reconsortia.com.
Yep.
And then there's a tab up there that says Order Certified Listing.
Okay.
And you just go through the steps. Even that form is about to release. I have to, after this filming, I have to go anyway, nerd time, just to get it flawless. But there is a form now, and then there's a much sexier form that's coming. So we're very excited.
So, and only do that if you want to get 7% listings, and if you want to sell homes or have them close in 2 weeks and sell them in 3 to 7 days in this market right
only
now.
if you want that, then go
only
there.
if you want to do that.
That's
but
crazy. Who wants that?
Yeah.
I don't
Hey,
know.
No one
if you
wants to
don't-
make more money faster.
If you don't
Terrible.
want to do that, yeah. And if you don't want to be on the cutting edge of what is happening, and I tell this story, not that often, but just to say again, I don't regret anything in my life, but the one thing, if I could change it, it would have been back in the year 2000 to take the internet seriously. And that's the same mistake I don't want to make, with blockchain and NFTs, because that was something that, it was funny. I just listened to the naysayers back then, because I was young anyways, and they always said, oh, internet's a fad, or no, or especially after .com crashed in
Totally.
2000,
Oh, yeah.
2001, everybody was like, see, all the negativity, see all the people that are, unsuccessful anyways, right? Talking smack, saying, okay, that whole .com thing is a joke. And then, yep.
You got to test technology.
Yeah.
You got to break
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
You got to figure out what's real and what's not. And then, the winners come out and rise like a phoenix.
Yeah.
So.
And you have to adapt to the change. And just like you mentioned with the currency, with the world, I mean, this is where we're absolutely moving to.
Yep.
And we just came back from a conference last week in Vegas, and a real estate NFT conference. And the things that were discussed and talked about, you can see how the utility aspect of all of this is going to come into play. So very, very important. Well, thank you all for joining us today.
Yeah, this is
Thank
good.
you.
Yep.
We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you're interested in partnering with us to access our YouTube course and coaching at no cost, schedule a call at passiveprospectingpartner.com.